Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Olympus 12-45mm f4 Pro lens for micro four thirds. It's got a 58mm filter ring, 7 aperture blades, and of course, a constant aperture of f4. And all photo and video samples in this review were taken with the lens, except of course for the comparison shots, and all photos are processed with Darktable, the best photo editor on the planet. Build quality. The Olympus 12-45 f4 Pro is a solid lens. It's got a metal mount with weather sealing. The zoom ring on mine turned well, but it has a bit of a metal on metal feeling that's ever so slightly scratchy. Overall, 4 out of 5 for build quality. Sharpness. Of course, the most important thing about a lens is sharpness. Let's first check out the longer end in the center at f4, 40mm. Note that this is a printed piece of paper carefully stuck to the wall so that it's flat, and the entire 8.5 by 11 paper approximately fills the frame. Now let's crop and zoom in, and then compare it to the budget kit zoom, the Olympus 40-150 f4 to 5.6R lens at f4, side by side. Okay, it looks pretty sharp and the text is clear. Comparing it to the budget zoom, the 12-45 f4 Pro has a bit of extra bite in contrast. For practical purposes, it's quite sharp. If we move to f5.6, the Olympus still has a bit of extra bite, but the 40-150 has sharpened up a little. What about the corner edge at 40mm, also f4? Let's compare it again to the 40-150. Now, it's clear that the 12-45 f4 Pro is a much better lens. The kit zoom is a mess, but the 12-45 is pretty darn good. And at f5.6, the results are similar, and the kit 40-150 hasn't gotten much better. Also, let's compare the lens to itself, f4 versus f5.6 in the center. It's already pretty sharp at f4, but there's a tiny bit of improvement at f5.6. In the corner, the results are quite similar. Now, what about the wide end? Since I don't have any other wide lenses, let's just look at the center at f4 and f5.6 side by side. The results look pretty similar to the ones from 40mm. The corners are also excellent, with a bit of improvement at the far edge at f5.6. Now, I mentioned earlier that I took these results with the test chart filling the frame, but something different happens at minimum focus distance. Let's go back to an uncropped shot at f5, 45mm, very near the minimum focus distance. If we zoom in, we see that the center is sharp, but if we move to the edge, we begin to see blurriness. The same thing basically happens at all focal lengths due to the design of the lens having some field curvature. This is quite different than a prime with a much flatter field curvature. For example, let's take a look at the Venus Laowa 50mm f2.8 macro lens at f4 with a similar magnification. Again, the center is sharp, but if we move to the corners, you'll see that the corners look a lot better than the corners of the 12-45mm f4 Pro. So, what is the conclusion? At typical distances away from the minimum focus distance, the Olympus 12-45mm f4 Pro is sharp corner to corner. It's already sharp wide open and just improves a little stop down to f5.6. However, at or very near minimum focus distance, the corners become soft at any aperture and any focal length. Therefore, shots such as closer shots of patterns in nature or textures up close on rock surfaces will suffer, and the results will be noticeable even without pixel peeping. Strengths of the lens. Number 1, it's a flexible zoom. The 12-45mm focal length, which gives a full frame equivalent field of view of 24 to 90mm, is very flexible. The fact that it's sharp corner to corner makes it excellent for landscape photography. Number 2, it has a constant aperture. The f4 aperture, although not very fast, is more than enough for most kinds of photography, especially since it's sharp wide open. Number 3, close minimum focus distance. If you want to get a little closer to your subject, like a large frog or a flower, you can. That's because the lens has a 0.25x magnification, making it good for almost macro work. 4, flaring is good. The lens looks very good even when the sun is in the frame, and it rarely loses contrast, so that's quite nice for a landscape lens. 5, the lens is quite light, especially compared to some larger zooms for larger sensor systems. Weaknesses. Number 1, weak corners up close. As I mentioned, near the minimum focus distance, the lens is weak in the corners. I would forgive that at the widest focal lengths, but at the longer end, this is still a problem. It's not a problem if you're taking up-close shots and mainly the center area is in focus, such as close shots of mushrooms, frogs, etc. but it sometimes is a problem if you want to focus on things like patterns on the ground. However, you can still get fairly close before this problem appears. For instance, here is a photo of the snow on the ground that I took while I was standing and pointing the camera down, and it looks pretty good. Number 2, bokeh looks a bit funny. The bokeh of this lens is good, but not perfect. One thing I've noticed is that even when wide open, the bokeh tends not to be perfectly circular. There's also a bit of a strong onion ring effect when the bokeh comes from very sharp point sources of light. Outdoors though, it looks pretty good, so it's not a major complaint. Number 3, starbursts could be better. The starbursts look decent when stopped down enough, but the rays often aren't as sharp as some other lenses with better starbursts. Conclusion: the Olympus 12-45mm f4 Pro is a pretty good lens, and it works well for travel, landscapes, videography, and general video work. I wish it did have a little bit better performance in the corners at close to minimum focus distance range, but that's not a huge problem. Overall, if you're looking for a lens in this focal length range, it's a pretty strong contender. So I recommend it, and I give it an overall rating of 4 out of 5. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next time.